There we go. Hey everybody, it's me, John Johnsick, back with Conversing with Creators. I think this is like our 5th or 6th show. I'm not sure. But anyway, I got great guest on tonight, great hair,
Thank you.
the writer of the hit comic. I'm going to call it a hit already because I loved it.
I like it. I'll take it.
Yeah. It's Billy the Pyro. It's published by Alterna Comics, right? And this is Mr. Brad. Is it Burdick?
Yes.
Okay.
So Burdick, Cold, and then Dick. Yeah. So.
I don't mind John sick, Jonathan John sick. So every time I would say, "Oh, John is sick," and yeah.
I can see it.
High school.
Yeah.
Well, for those who haven't read Billy the Pyro, which you should, I'm gonna put a link to the Comixology page where it is. Go buy it. It's only like $1.99. But maybe just a small synopsis of what the series is about.
Yeah, it's a quick overview. It's a kind of a not so normal coming of age story about adolescent teenager Billy, who comes from like kind of an abusive and troubled past, which he tries to find ways to overcome, and soon finds out that he's been genetically altered by a government research institute, which eventually teams up with and fights past experiments gone wrong. It's kind of a mixture of a little bit of X-Men meets Hellboy with some teenage angst in there.
Yeah. I have only gotten my hands on the first issue. It's funny, the second issue just dropped today, so It's almost like we planned this to happen when really it was just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not like I've been running around all over the place trying to get it out there.
But what I really loved about the first issue is that you're just kind of in his head for just the majority. Is just kind of Billy walking around, and you really get a sense of the character through all of the internal monologue. Yeah,
no, that's exactly what I was trying to go for. Is honestly, this particular story, it's kind of a personal one to me, and what I've had to go through and overcome. So I wanted to put a lot of myself in there, and then kind of just afterthought mask it in kind of a superhero-esque type of feel. But I wanted to kind of be more of a story that people can kind of relate to.
Yeah, I think everyone has gone through that kind of teen angst. Not even teen angst, because he kind of has a reason for his anger and for his kind of distrust of a lot of people. And weird hobos don't help either.
Yeah, you'll definitely see in the second issue that drops today. It'll explain some some questions that you had, and it will probably create some more, unfortunately. But
that's always a good story, though, and it gives you a little bit, but it never gives you everything all at once.
Yeah.
And so maybe not to get too personal, but was writing always a passion you've had when you were younger, or is it something that came about when you're a lot older?
Yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is I don't really consider myself a writer, per se. I consider myself more of a creator. And I've always had stories and ideas in my head, and art has always kind of been a way for me to express myself. It's been a lot easier for me personally to do that versus other ways. So I've always found myself going to creating stories or comics, either be like a 3-panel web comic I used to do, or a full-blown story arc like Billy. It's just kind of a way to express myself, and it helps me get these voices out of my head, basically.
I know that feeling. I think my favorite times when I'm like typing out a script, when I realize I'm not really thinking about the dialogue or any of that stuff, it's just kind of coming naturally.
Yep. Yeah, to me, honestly, the dialogue is one of the last things that I put into place.
So you're like the anti-Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is like all dialogue, then little kind of actually stuff happening.
Yeah, exactly. Because me personally, I'm more of a visual type of guy, so I see exactly how I want something to go, and then that's when I follow up with my writing to get it to that point.
So, and the artist is Fabian Cross?
Fabian Cobos.
Cobos. I knew it was a C.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's close.
professionalism is throw it out the window. Well, how did you two get in contact?
So I spent weeks, months on DeviantArt, actually, just
Uh,
finding artists and trying to connect with people, um, and that's where I found both Fabian and Eddie as the colorist as well, both on DeviantArt. Um, and there's so many different great artists out there that I found and on DeviantArt. But when I saw Fabian's, I kind of really saw his style kind of really fit Billy. Um,
yeah, that's one of the things I really loved looking through the book. It's just he's just you can even just look at that cover. And I know I've seen. Did you have a Kickstarter campaign?
yeah. Yeah. So late last year, I had a Kickstarter for the first volume or first issue, excuse me, um, which got me to this point. Got picked up by Alternative Comics, and now doing a 4-issue story arc with them. So.
I remember I saw that I saw the cover for the first issue when I was looking up some alternative comic stuff, and I was like, I've seen this before, and I remembered I checked out. I can't distinctly remember. I don't think I backed it because I didn't have much money then. So, but
Yeah, no,
checking it out
there's
and
so
looking
many
at it.
great Kickstarters out there that I would love to back, and people I see on Twitter every day having Kickstarters, and just like, if I had the money, I probably wouldn't be. But yeah, Kickstarter is great.
Oh,
That's a
for
great.
I did a Kickstarter for the first issue of mine. It's not out. It's almost out. Yeah, the art's getting like finalized right now, but for my book, and that really helped out. I love Kickstarter. It's just such a great tool that think if Frank Miller had to use Kickstarter back in the early '80s, that would 70s. Oof.
Yeah, no. The funny thing is I was kind of out of the whole comics for probably 7 years, and because when I was doing my web comic back then, they didn't have, Twitter and all social media wasn't really that big. There was no Kickstarter, so it was kind of hard to continually do my art and actually get it out there. So with Kickstarter being as big as it is now, I saw an opportunity to get back into comics and do what I love to do. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, what I love about kind of how lucky we are right now is that we're in kind of a day and age where the barrier to entry for the comics industry is probably as small as it's ever been. Anybody can, get a bunch of people behind them and fund their own or self-publish or even get a company like Alterna, who I've been looking at for my book. I've heard a lot of good things about Alterna Comics.
Oh yeah, Alterna is definitely up and coming publisher. Peter is he's got a great company there, and he's got a Kickstarter going right now for the chair, which is one of the first Alterna comics being. He's trying to make that into a movie, so that would be huge, not only for his personal projects, but for Alterna itself.
Yeah, I love I got Peter. I commissioned Peter to do a piece of art for me. If I had it next to me, I'd grab it. But that dude is super talented.
Oh yeah, no, he's great guy, great guy.
So so you said you have a 4-issue you're doing a 4-issue kind of series with Alterna. Do you have plans after that to continue Billy's story, or is that just only like Alterna's like, hey, we'll do 4 issues, but
Well, I kind of approached by Alterna or when we're working the deal out, I said I had 4 issues in mind for the first story arc. And I said, okay, cool, we'll sign that and get that out there. Personally, I do have other beyond that stories in mind. I might take a break from Billy after the first story arc because in the process of creating these first 4 issues, I have about 4 or 5 other comic ideas that I want to do. So I think I want to do maybe a one shot or a couple of. I've been talking to some other people of doing little shorts and stuff for their comics. So just trying to get out there in little other avenues, and then I'll come back to Billy and maybe do a volume 2, another story arc after that, which I do have ideas and stories and plans for those.
yeah, I think the best thing about the internet right now is just connecting with people. and getting, you know, different artists, different writers. That's why I love doing this, is because there are a lot of people who sit there who are just like, man, I can't, you know, I can't do comics. I can't be like Bendis or Fraction or any of these people. And it's like, no, you can. You just have to put yourself out there and do it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And especially in this day and age, there's really no excuse in not doing that with Kickstarter and everything else, and especially social media where you can easily connect with people. Twitter is probably the best thing right now for that, and I'm kind of behind on Twitter. I've only been on it for really about almost a year, and I've met more people in the industry than I have my whole life just in that short amount of time. It's crazy.
Yeah, and my favorite. There are a couple of people on Twitter who are just who are so easy to talk to. It's just crazy. Like Van Jensen. He writes Green Lantern Corps and The Flash right now. I met him at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was selling Pinocchio Vampire Slayer, which is his indie comic, which I bought and I absolutely love. I just talked to him and I started talking to him on Twitter, and now it's like we almost have a friendship, which is an internet friendship, I guess. But you were talking about how you had kind of a 4-issue story, and that's and you want to do other projects right now. Is there any other kind of genres you're really looking at, or are you just looking to more do like collaborative work?
For some reason, I can't shake like sci-fi out of my head. I think the next 3 comic stories I have revolve around something sci-fi. Maybe it's because Cosmos is out on TV right now or something, but I think to me it's always been just like Cosmos and explaining how small we are in this universe. It's always been an interest to me, and it's always been in the back of my mind. So I think I'm trying to bring that in the forefront and actually create something around that. The next project I think I'm going to be working on is going to be kind of a romance sci-fi, and the romance genre used to be huge in comics.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And now it's really, you know, here and there you can see it, you know. So I think that's a good opportunity or avenue to try to pursue and get that back. So I think that's the next thing that I'm going to be working on.
Yeah. My favorite things about is that with you can do anything with a comic book, basically. I mean, you can do any sort of story that you want to do. And I feel kind of sad when people try to limit themselves and try to just, you know, I'm just going to do a superhero story, or I'm just going to do like a sci-fi story. There are so many different genres, and especially, like you said, the romance genre used to be huge in comics. It used to be one of the top sellers. Marvel used to, you know, skate by on True Romance, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it's, people associate romance with, oh, sappy, you know, like teen movies or some stupid comedy, romantic comedy movie. And it's really a versatile genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I've had friends and stuff I pitched the story to and whatnot. They're like, what do you know about love? You know, it's like, what do you know about romance? I'm like, I know enough. But I've never had really that sappy teen bop type of movie mentality anyway, so I'm not going to bring that into it, that's for sure.
And you can even read that with tying it back, Billy the Pyro. There's not that kind of even we're throwing angst around because it's kind of the best word to use. But a lot of people associate angst with Harry Potter, which isn't. I like Harry Potter, but it's just that's just the idea that you get from it, and that's not what I get from Billy. The closest thing I can resemble it to. Did you read? Have you read any of the Luther Strode by Justin Jordan?
No, not yet. I haven't.
Oh, it's really good, but it's kind of that same, to where sure there's sometimes it's very realistic kind of angst, or realistic kind of emotion from it, and especially not really spoiler. Billy's dad is kind of a douche. He's not the greatest guy in the world, but even that scene, which in any other kind of story or whatever could seem out of place or even just rushed in didn't with this. And I think you do a really good job of capturing that normal teen angst.
Well, I appreciate that. Um, and there's a couple of things they touched up on. Issue 2, there's going to be a little bit more of that kind of that story. And then in issue 3, I have other stuff planned, kind of back to more the emotional and romance type of stuff. So you can kind of see that's where my mind is at right now in writing stuff. So I'm excited to finally get these out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to find new things because the comics community is all about complaining about things, and it's nice to just find something and go, hey, I like this, I want to talk about it. And I also like that you can kind of tell that you and the artist have a very close relationship. Maybe just talking wise, or maybe just a chemistry wise. Just things seem to click when you're reading the story.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I don't know if I've actually never asked Fabian this question. If English is his, obviously it'd have to be a second language, or if he just does Google Translate with all the emails and scripts and stuff that I get him. But every time I get a page back, and it's like exactly how I envisioned it in my head. For some odd reason, I don't know if he just stalks me on Facebook all the time or what it is, but like he understands me and understands where I'm coming from, and I kind of asked for someone better for it. And I was just thinking this to myself earlier today. It's like when you create a comic with someone, it's really like you're part of the family. Like I feel as like Fabian is my brother or part of the family now, and just the way that comics brings people together, it's insane.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I'm assuming, does Fabian, does he live in the United States, or does he live,
No, he lives in Mexico.
Okay. It's weird. I know a couple of people who, they're either UK or Spain is like where all of the talent is coming from right now. And it's well, it's not crazy, but it's crazy that we live now where it's like, oh, hey, this guy from Flim Flam, Nebraska, can talk to this person in like Barcelona and make something together and like completely understand each other and have one creative vision.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was having a conversation with some of my friends. We took a mini road trip about 2.5 hours south of where we are, and it's kind of farmland. It's nowhere in Central California. And so one of my friends is like, well, what would you do if you lived out here? Like, what would you do with yourself? And I thought to myself, it's like I'd do the same thing I'm doing now. There's nothing that limits me wherever I'm personally at to pursue to make comics. And it's because of the technology and the age that we live in now. It's great.
Yeah, the only thing that can limit you when it's something creative is yourself, really.
Yep.
I mean, even if you don't want to do Kickstarter, Indiegogo is another place that's a great tool that's maybe not as publicized as Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to reach your goal, which is, I think, a lot of people, they go to Kickstarter, they don't get near their goal, and they just stop. And it's like there are other avenues and other ways to reach your goal. Or even, I mean, webcomics are a great tool that I think we don't appreciate enough. We just read a funny thing and go, oh, haha, share that. And we don't talk about who wrote this, who drew it, because they deserve appreciation too. And you said you worked on a webcomic for a while?
Yeah, so back in high school, I started this webcomic called The Fly, where it was just basically random little stories that I drew, and it was a lot of inside jokes with me and my friends. Like the tagline was "Where random meets stupid." So I did that about once a week for quite some time, and back then it was actually decently popular. And then I kind of just work and life and everything, I just fell out of it. But last year I built a website to showcase all of them. So they're up on my website, and people can check out. But looking back, it's like some of them are just really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what was I thinking, you know? Um, but yeah, no, I drew them, and so what I'm doing now is actually going back and kind of re-editing them, redrawing some of them, and I have a friend of mine, she's actually doing some of the color work for them. So I'm trying to get it back into looking presentable and kind of where my eye and my vision's at right now to my older stuff.
Yeah. It's always interesting looking back at something they have done like 5, 10, even a year ago, and just to see maybe just the differences in your style, the differences in what you think is important or not in a story. And I was reading something that I wrote when I was like in 6th or 7th grade. That was just a giant ripoff of the video game Kingdom Hearts. Like it was literally just Kingdom Hearts except with like street urchins in London.
Nice.
And it was so bad, but it was like my pride and joy back then. So it's just interesting looking at that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, it's good to see where you came from. You know, I know a lot of artists and people they throw away a lot of their old stuff, or they just don't look at that. But I think it's a good thing to look at where you came from. You know, where you started, just to kind of evaluate yourself and to even grow more. You know.
Now, maybe a little backtrack, but I was wondering, how did you first come into contact with alternative comics? Did you find them, like just stumble upon them, or how did that work out?
Yeah, so I kind of just dove headfirst into the comic industry right this past year because I was out of it for so long. So I was months upon months of research of not only trying to find an artist and colorist and all that stuff, but potential publishers. And so I came across Alterna, and I submitted my stuff to them. And the thing was, I was kind of in between jobs at the time, and I was starting a new job, and my life was kind of all over the place. So um, I kind of put it off on hold. I was like, okay, well, let me get back to you. A couple months later, then I said, okay, I'm focused now. I have my feet planted. I know what to do. So let's get this going. And he and Peter graciously just said, yeah, that's cool. So that's great. I haven't looked back since.
Now, and it seems to be working out right now, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
And so, do you? I know they kind of have a digital like deal with Comixology, and they kind of do you have a print run of Billy the Pyro?
Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing is after the 4th issue comes out, I'm going to do another Kickstarter to put all of them together in the first volume. And then so after that, hopefully gets funded, I'll do a print run through Alterna, so it'll go on the comic market and through Diamond and get out to all the stores.
Oh, nice. Well, I'll be sure to retweet and all that fun stuff.
I appreciate it. And that was kind of my thought behind it as well too. Versus doing a Kickstarter for each individual issue, not only does that take a lot of time and energy, but since I am kind of newer to the industry, I'm trying to get a little bit more fan base and known before I go back to the Kickstarter to fund the rest of these.
That's kind of one of my favorite things about having this, like my YouTube channel that I kind of do stuff on, but mostly I just kind of wait until I do another one of these, is that it's nice to talk to people who are in very different areas of the industry, a comic book industry, or just doing their own things. Like you're working with Alterna. I talked to Bob France and Justin Cristelli, who work with Primal Paper Comics, which is their own little comic company out in Virginia. Well, Bob doesn't live in Virginia anymore, but that's a long story. And it's just, I love kind of making, like, maybe friends, just like people I can talk to in like all these different areas, and kind of just get a different idea of what the entire market is like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's huge between small indie publishers to big, Image and Marvel powerhouses. And that's the thing I love about comics is it's so wide You know, you can find a niche in everything. You know, you don't have to um, even have a publisher per se nowadays anymore. You know, a lot of people are going out and making their own um companies, or just doing it all themselves and being successful at it.
It's a it's a crazy time we live in. It's like the Wild West in comics. Say it to anybody else, they're gonna just look at you like you're stupid. But do you do any of the? Do you like have a specific con, or do you do the con shows with Billy the Pyro or anything?
Yeah, so I've done a few, most locally here in the Bay Area. I applied for Emerald City, and that will probably be my next big one. And I think next year I'm going to try to venture out of California a bit more, and go to some other states and get it out there. But I absolutely love conventions. I did Big Wow in San Jose a couple weekends ago. And that was a blast. You know, I had people coming up and actually recognizing me or the comic, and you know, wanting to take pictures with me, and you know, fangirls and stuff like that. It's just it's crazy to
Look at
even,
you moving up in the world.
yeah. uh, no, but I absolutely love that, and I love how it's so inviting to everyone. You know, it's not necessarily your comic nerd or your nerd per se, and I think um, everyone in some regards has that nerd-esque to them nowadays. You know, I think everyone could easily communicate over these forms of what, you know, 30, 40 years ago would be considered, oh, that's a nerdy thing to do, you know. Um, and it's great to see that, and it just keeps expanding and expanding.
Yeah, I feel like comics kind of now are in this great position where all the movies are making millions upon millions of dollars with things like The Walking Dead, and people realizing, oh, hey, there's not just guys and types doing weird stuff. There's
Yeah.
all this other stuff going around, and every like Vertigo or whatever comic getting option for a TV show now, it's just opening up the new readership. And I
Hmm.
really think it's independent creators' jobs to be to be inviting and be the first ones to say, "Hey, welcome to comics."
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, especially nowadays, the comic genre is looked at in higher regards to most of, like, even normal books and stuff, because the stories are just so damn good now. It's and that in Marvel, or in the entertainment industry, and the movie industry has to look at this. You know, they can't overpass this because they're just so damn good nowadays.
Yeah, I've heard what a lot of certain people have been doing. They started making a comic, and instead of sending that to a publisher, they just send it directly to like a producer or someone in the movie business. Because somehow that's an easier way to get across in a script, which makes complete sense because comics are movies, in a literal form. But the
Mm.
great thing about comics is that you choose your own pace. Unlike a movie, when the pace is completely decided for you, in comics you can linger, you can flip, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you gotta have a movie in an hour and a half or 2 hours. You know, you can have stories last like The Walking Dead for years.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna be sad when that ends because everyone's dying. That's
Yeah.
just how it has to end.
It's crazy to see where that Walking Dead especially come from. I remember when the first issue came out, long, long time ago. It's crazy.
Oh, is it? No, it's not more than. I'm trying to think how many years ago that was. That's a while ago.
10. Didn't they just celebrate their 10th year?
Oh, jeez.
I think so.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say 10 years, but I was like, no, it can't be. But it's so weird now. Well, Invincible too, because Robert Kirkman just has magic hands. That these comics can last over 100 issues, which isn't something that you see a lot in today's market.
Yeah, especially if it's not a Batman or a Superman. You know, if it's not a Marvel or DC, to actually have a creator-owned comic last that long, it's insane.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, at first, every time when I was first into comics, I kind of look down at the short runs. You know, the guys who only get in like 10 or 20 issues or stuff like that. But then recently, with Kieran Gillen's Young Avengers, I read that, and it's like a 20 issue or so run, and it's just a perfect from first issue to last issue story, and it's made me really kind of realize the great thing about what I've started calling the three trade story. You know, if it's a story and it can fit in three trade paperbacks, it's considered a very short run, but you can do so much in that. And with the Pyro, you know, you're doing a 4-issue story. It's you can do a lot and tell a very cohesive story in a short amount of time. It's like a lot of us have gotten, you know, longer is better. You know, we always want our creators to work on a book for years and years and years. We want to bend this run. But sometimes having a short run and it be good and it be the story that you want to tell is all that it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think it's harder to write a shorter story than it is a longer, 100 issues. Yeah, you have to still keep coming up with kind of fresh ideas and stuff, but it's hard to compact all of that into, a volume or two.
Especially if you love the characters, you can make up stories no matter what. I mean, I found it like just writing like so many story ideas pop in my head, and to stop it, to go, you know what, this is where these characters stop, at least in print form, living. It's kind of hurts a little bit because you just want to keep on writing these characters that you've grown to love forever, and then having to say nope, we're stopping it here, and then whatever horrible thing you decide to do with them, or some people might give them happily ever after, but it's independent comics, people. Everyone's dying anyway.
Right? If there's not a few deaths in it, it's not a good comic, right?
Or if it's an indie film, if you ever just watch like any independent film that's on Netflix right now, it's always someone's dying or someone's just ending off the movie with a horrible life.
Yeah.
Let me stretch a little bit. I am coming up with these questions on the spot.
Okay.
Because I am a very professional interviewer.
All right.
So, I want to talk about colors for a second. You have, who does the color for Billy the Pyro?
Eddie Swan. He's out in Australia.
I could not see that book without color. The color brings so much, and not even because it's the Pyro and there's fire. Like, you can do black and white fire, but just how the color's used throughout the book. The blue hoodie, just everything in that book, I can't picture it without color. And I think Eddie Swan does a fantastic job.
Yeah, no, he's great. The funny thing is, you bring up the blue hoodie. At first, he had Billy in a red hoodie, and I was like, no, let's make it blue. So, but yeah, no, the whole creative team that I have is just great. I couldn't have asked for anyone better. And I think the second issue, it's even blown my mind of the amount of talent that Fabian and Eddie have just brought to the table. It's crazy. It still gets me like the first 5 pages of the second issue. Even though I wrote it and I I created it, it still gets me. It's just visually just one of the nicest things I've seen. And it's not just because it's my comic, but
just objectively, it's great to look at.
Exactly.
So I've noticed something now that when I'm working with my artist Brandon Washington. When I did the first issue, I was very, very kind of strict, very like issue 1, panel 1. This has to, very much like this is how it has to go. And as I've talked and as I've emailed back and forth, I've noticed that my scripts have become looser and more like, here's about kind of what I want, but I want you to throw in a couple reaction shots or whatever you feel would create an interesting grid, an interesting layout. And have you because I've asked a couple of other writers and I've gotten different answers each time. I was just wondering, have you realized any difference in your scripts as you've gotten to know your artist?
Well, I think especially if you're creating a few issues with your artists, you kind of tend to write for them.
Hmm.
You know their style, you know what they can bring, what they can do, so you kind of maybe either loosen it up or tighten it up in some areas. And from the start, one of the first conversations I ever had with Fabian was, yeah, this is what the panel is supposed to look like and whatnot, but I kind of made it loose because I kind of want to bring, what you have going to the table as well. Um, and that was one of the best decisions. I'm never really on him. I'm like, okay, this needs to be a little bit more right or a little more left. I wouldn't do that to him. Um, Obviously, there's some edits and stuff that I make afterwards, but I want him to bring as much creativity to himself, and he was like, "That's great. I like to hear that." So I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, a comic is supposed to showcase all the names on the cover, and even down to whoever's editing the book. You have to kind of see their stamp everywhere in the book, and especially a colorist, especially nowadays, where I feel like colorists were kind of forgotten before, and now we're kind of getting people like Jordi Belair, who does the color for Moon Knight right now and a bunch of other books.
Like what's not being done?
She's doing everything, but she's knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
Because, the team puts their support and weight behind her, and you really see that through with the coloring choices. And I feel like that's the same way with your team and your book. You can kind of see everyone's contribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even the colorist, even down to the letterist. The first issue, I got Crank, who does Revival and Hack Slash and some big name stuff. He's working on it. He did a great job. Unfortunately, he didn't from time restraints and his schedule didn't get to do issue 2. But I got Marshall Dillon, which is also another huge letterist, to do issue 2. But everyone, they're all just they need their credit because they bring everything to that book. It's great.
Yeah. So I have a question. What, obviously, because what would be the sense in this if I didn't have a question?
You got an answer for me?
What books are you reading right now?
Okay, I'm so behind. It's ridiculous. A guilty pleasure of mine, and it's just because it's great and it's always been a huge fan of mine, is X-Men. I love what's going on in that universe right now and in the story. But let's see, Dave by Ryan, that just finished up the last issue.
Yeah.
That was great.
Monkey Brain is just on fire right now.
They're pushing them out right now. A lot of greats. That's another great publisher. Shit, what else am I reading? East to West is a good one. I have stacks literally up to my head of comics I need to. And the thing is with that is because I don't want to try to take someone else's stories or ideas or writing when I'm in the middle of writing something myself, because I want it to kind of be my own. It's great.
I know there are a couple of times where I've just read something that Rick Remender's writing, and I'll just read it and I'll be like, oh, I wanted to do that, and me do it.
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, when even in movies and stuff, there's some movies that I don't even want to watch because the trailers, and it kind of seems like an idea that I have, like Gravity for the longest time. It kind of seemed like a story that I had. I finally watched it, and it was nothing like it. So I was like, oh, good. But yeah, it's funny. So especially after I'm done writing the 4th issue, which should be here pretty soon. And I'm going to start catching up on everything.
Yeah, I get very far behind on single issues. Just, my problem is I never have the money, so I'm just like a trade waiter, very bad. Which sucks when half of the series that I like get canceled because I'm not buying the single issues.
Yeah, and nowadays I don't I rarely buy singles, and if I do, they're through Comixology or they're digital.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'll just pick up the trade paperback.
Yeah. So on kind of the heels of that question, if there's one book right now that you could write, that's let's say Marvel DC, because you're already writing the book you want to write, Billy the Pyro. Link down below. Buy it. What would it be?
A Marvel or DC comic?
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel, DC, any one of
Uh,
them.
Guilty pleasure, I'd have to do X-Men. Um,
Now, how would you more so focus on kind of the younger, like the New Mutants, or would you just get the classic kind of team?
because they haven't really talked about it too much yet, I would want to focus on the older one, the third universe or the third timeline the dark one that they introduced a little bit ago. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah,
on it.
Battle for the Atom.
Exactly. Because to me that seems like a lot of potential. It's very very interesting. You can touch up on some on darker characters that normally you wouldn't perceive as a bad guy or evil. But yeah.
Yeah, that's. I realized, like now reading comics and writing it, I have a way different viewpoint on what I would want to write now. Because it's after you start making your own comics, you're like, okay, now I know what I would actually want to do. Everyone's like, I want to write Spider-Man or Batman.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to write the Legion of Superheroes. I think I could. Oh, I have so many ideas for what I do with that book because it's just a book that kind of gets crapped upon all the time, that not a lot of people really love, and I just want to like wipe it off and just raise it up.
I'll tell you one other big name superhero comic I'd love to write would be Batman, and how I would do it would be a different universe where his parents never died, and see his steps to becoming Batman,
Mhm.
and how that would change his evolution. Um, I've always had that thought, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people had that thought as well.
Yeah. I don't know. People have also had the thought, like, what if Clark Kent became Batman?
Yeah.
Which I actually have that. I think that weird Elseworld story. I think it's called like Speeding Bullets or something, where it's like an alternate universe where Clark Kent is gets like picked up by the Waynes. They're like driving through Kansas for some reason, and it's a little weird. At the end, he becomes Superman, so it doesn't really make sense. But
He's not even Batman after that.
it's like he's Batman for a little bit, and then he's like too brutal or something. I don't know, it was a while ago.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have time for a game?
All right.
It's a short game. Something I just kind of was thinking about and just trying out. Okay, it's called Reboot, Relaunch, or Kill Off. I'll name 3 characters. We decide if you want to reboot the character, completely change their history, and start anew. Relaunch it, give the character a new #1, make them, the top dog in whatever universe, or kill off, just done.
Awesome. All right.
Alright. So we have Black Panther, Falcon, and War Machine.
Kill off War Machine. Just I think it's
Rhodey just out.
It's great, but just get him off. Aren't they already rebooting Black Panther? I know there's talks of a movie coming out or whatnot.
Yeah, they might be. I don't know. All I know is Hickman's doing weird things with him in New Avengers.
We'll reboot Black Panther.
You have an idea, like just off the top of your head, what you would change?
No, because unfortunately I'm not that familiar in that universe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I want to see a reboot.
Streamline it.
Yeah, exactly. The third option was again, I'm sorry.
Oh, relaunch. New #1. They're gonna be the head of all the events.
You said Hawkeye?
No, Falcon.
Oh, Falcon. Yeah, relaunched Falcon. Another one I'm not too
Yeah.
familiar with, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, Falcon is like I recently saw the Captain America movie, and Falcon's always just been a side character in the Captain America series.
Which no spoilers, I still haven't seen. I'm way
Oh,
behind on my summer blockbusters.
yeah. I'm gonna be really behind soon. I'm just out of money. I'm gonna be missing all the movies. But I think I would have to agree with you. Rhodey out of here. He's never really done that much for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch it up though. I'm gonna say reboot Falcon and just give him like the Ultimates version of his story, where he's just like a soldier. Because he has this really weird, like he was in Barbados. He was like an African slave, and like all this weird stuff with like his backstory. And I would make Black Panther the top dog in the Marvel universe. He'd take Captain America's spot. He'd just be leading the charge.
I I'll agree with that. We'll do that. You're gonna head that up. You're gonna start writing that.
Yeah, Black Panther. Oh, no one's gonna get upset about that. Black Panther's always a character that he's like, especially in some of the recent like cartoons and stuff. He's just always a character that in theory I like, but never really like in execution.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it, like Ghost Rider. When I look at him, I like him. When I read him, I usually don't though.
Yeah, I'm still rooting for the first or the reboot of Ghost Rider. I love Trad Moore's art style and
Oh yeah, I love that book. That book is so. I read the first issue and it just knocked me back.
yeah. No, I'm rooting for that one.
Yeah, it feels like a modern comic, which is
Mhm.
weird. But a lot of comic books sometimes feel like they were written a decade ago,
Yeah.
and this really feels like a modern comic for 2014.
Yeah, the comics have just come a long way in the past 5 years. I was looking over reading a comic in the early 2000s, or no, late 2000s, like 2008. I was looking at Guardians of the Galaxy, um, and then that like the new reboot of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's to me at least visually, it's just so different. The art
Yeah,
style just in a few years have changed so much.
I feel like the big two companies, Marvel more than DC, have kind of let more of an indie style into their house. Marvel definitely is, giving more books to David Aja and Javier Peludo and Steve Lieber and these like really different guys than your Kirby's. And Jack Kirby doesn't draw comics anymore, obviously, but that style that's kind of been the style for years.
Well, they kind of have to right now since Image is just blowing up, and creator-owned comics in general are just blowing up. They have to do something because everyone from Marvel is
Yeah.
leaving to do their creator-owned comics for Image. So
Image has become the place where all the writers make their names at Marvel and DC, and then they do what they want to do at Image, which almost makes it harder to send, nobodies to Image.
well, yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. I had a thought at one point in time. I submitted Billy to Image, but being a no name, I knew it wasn't going to happen. But it's a nice dream to think. Maybe
Yeah,
one day, once I get a little more established and a few more comics under my belt. But yeah.
that's the great thing about places like Alterna, who are
Oh,
they're if you just like hover your mouse over the like the shop or the print and digital, it's just a long list of books you've never heard of by people you don't know,
hmm.
and they're very open to new books. It feels like, at least.
No, it's a great place. Alterna's great, and there's a lot of indie publishers are great because it's a stepping stone into it. Um, yeah, I don't know where I would be even without Alterna right now. It's great.
So, I think that's about wrapped it up. I think I've wasted enough of your time.
It's all good.
No, but Billy the Pyro. Now you can link down below. Comixology. First two issues are out. They're only $1.99 a piece, which is great because most comics right now are $2.99. And was that? I actually got a question. Was that your decision to make it $1.99?
That was all Alterna. So I believe most of their comics are $1.99 digital.
That makes a lot of sense. I haven't looked through. I've picked up Billy the Pyro, and I picked up the agency, which I'm going to be talking to that creative team next week. I think Tuesday next week. I'll be talking to the three writers of that book, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I know. I haven't had a chance to pick theirs up yet, which I've been waiting for. I saw their promo months and months ago that was coming out, and I was like, okay, this looks cool. I
Yeah.
gotta read this. Um, but yeah, a lot of stuff out there I gotta catch up on. It's ridiculous.
If only all the anytime an alternate book, they would just send it to all the creators.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Wait. Pick up the first two issues, guys. When the third issue comes out, you'll hear it from me. Follow Mr. Brad Burdick on Twitter at Brad_Burdick. Think
Correct. Yep, that's it.
Yes. You can follow me at John Sagan. Not really. But Brad, I want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, and I love Billy the Pyro. I'm gonna pick up issue 2 probably next weekish, sometime around there, and then I'll probably tweet you and be like, "What did you do in my life or whatever?
This is terrible.
Why did I let you on my show?" Angry face.
Yeah. No, yeah. Let me know once you pick it up, and I appreciate all the support.
Yeah. And I should hopefully I got the first 2 finished pages of Edward and Pepper on my book, and so once we're about at 5 or 8, I'll probably tell everybody, but I'm gonna submit it over to Alterna. We'll see what happens. Me and Brad might technically be working together.
Nice. Yeah, let me know when that happens.
Yeah.
I'll definitely want to check it out.
All right, cool. Well, I want to thank everybody, and I'll see you all later.
All right, thanks. Bye.